Warcraft the movie, or Warcraft the beginning as it's known outside of the United States. The release of the Warcraft movie, it's been a long time coming. Hell, at many points people were questioning if it was even going to be released. But it was, and sadly, it's not as great as it could have been. There are good points, there's also a lot of bad points, and overall it's a pretty mediocre film. If you're a fan of Warcraft, and I am a fan of Warcraft, I grew up with Warcraft 1, 2, 3, played significant chunks of World of Warcraft, rated hardcore in World of Warcraft towards the end of Burning Crusade, early Wrath of the Lich King, all that. Played, most of the time that I played was during Burning Crusade, portion of Vanilla, portion of Wrath, portion of Cataclysm, all that. And if you're someone like me, you know, you've been waiting for this movie for a while now. And does it deliver? That's the question. Well, as a fan, I don't feel it does. But you gotta understand a couple of things. Although, yes, Warcraft changed my life, it significantly impacted my life, and I've been playing since Warcraft 1. I don't like where World of Warcraft is right now, not only in terms of gameplay, but also in terms of story. I absolutely hate the story direction that they've taken with the series since really Wrath of the Lich King. So although the earlier games and the original World of Warcraft and Burning Crusade significantly changed my life, impacted my life, defined me as a gamer, I don't like where World of Warcraft has been going. With that in mind, with Warcraft 1, and this is basically Warcraft 1 in movie form, the problem with that is there's like 4, 5, maybe even more versions of the events of Warcraft 1. No, really, they retconned it from Warcraft 1 to Warcraft 2. They retconned it again from Warcraft 2 to 3. They retconned it again for World of Warcraft. They retconned it again in World of Warcraft to create the Draenei, the whole Rise of the Horde, the bollocks that happened with the orcs slaughtering the Draenei and all that. So it happened multiple times, over and over again, that they retconned the events of Warcraft 1. To the point that the whole timeline is a bloody mess, right? So that's the situation that happened. In the movie, they take elements from a good portion of the timelines. They take it from the main timeline, the original ones, the first two that is, where the orcs come in the world, but not all of them. They come in the world, they launch attacks on human settlements, and they push all the way to Stormwind. That doesn't happen in the movie, but they push pretty far in the movie as well. In the timeline, they marched on Stormwind, almost took Stormwind before they were broken by the Brotherhood of the Horse or the Knights of Stormwind. None of that is mentioned, by the way. None of that happens. And in the aftermath of that, the orcs were pushed back to the Black Morass, and then the orcs regrouped, Blackhand took power, the Blackrock clan was created. Like, I believe there's a timeline where the Blackrock clan was created after they came to Azeroth. And after they got defeated at Stormwind, it was created by Gul'Dan with Blackhand as his puppet in order to control the various orcish tribes which were constantly fighting among each other. Anyway, in the movie though, they take elements from a lot of those timelines. So yes, the orcs come in the world. Yes, the Draenei are slaughtered on Outland by the orcs, and then in a departure to the timelines, the Draenei are used by Gul'Dan as fuel for the Dark Portal to send a portion of the Horde, not all of it, but a portion of the Horde to Azeroth with the idea of capturing more people there, humans, and sacrificing them to open the portal completely and allow the whole Horde into the human lands. So what you're seeing there is a portion of the Horde completely decimating a large portion of the Kingdom of Stormwind in a very short period of time. And that's the problem. Events are happening way too fucking fast. In a matter of days, they go through a war that lasted years in the timeline. Yes, years in the bloody timeline. And that's a big problem in terms of being able to sell the story to the people. The whole war is badly mangled. Yes, the events they follow are not stupid, but the way they show these events is pretty bad. But instead of the orcs intending to conquer Stormwind, their main goal is to capture villagers, soldiers, all that, just fuel for the Dark Portal. The humans find this out. They set about stopping him. Then there's the whole plotline with the Medivh, the last guardian, who is helping the orcs. The way I see it is they follow a very badly mangled version of Warcraft I, the human campaign, just the human campaign, where the orcs pushed pretty far and then you were pushing them back, but not completely defeating them. And King Lane, the leader of the humans, did get assassinated by Garona in that timeline, though in different circumstances. In the movie, what they do is they introduce Garona, they focus a lot on her, they create a friendship with Lane and other human characters, and even a romantic relationship between her and Lofar, or something as close to a romantic relationship as you'd get here. It's like, why, Blizzard, would you do that? Why the fuck would you do that? Of all the characters to focus on, let's not focus on the awesome CGI orcs, which we put a lot of time and money into actually making, but let's make it on someone in a bloody costume, painted. Well, not painted, they added the CGI effect to make her look green, but still, focusing on Garona was a bad move, and focusing on the humans actually more so than the orcs was also a bad move. Then there's the whole Medivh plotline, there's the idea of creating relationships from nothing and trying to sell us those relationships. In a movie that was going way too fast, they were going through all the events way too fucking fast. Their focus was all over the place. It's like, oh yeah, here's a scene in Ironforge, here's a scene in Dalaran, important places in Warcraft, but it had no relations to the actual fucking story of Warcraft 1. But it's like, yeah, winks and nods. Oh, here's the Draenei. We won't explain a lot of these things, by the way, because we don't have time. So their focus was all over the place, and instead of focusing on things that matter, instead of making a focus story, they made a bloody mess of things. A mess of things on all levels. And that's where the movie falls apart, because due to the fast pacing of the movie, them trying to cover as many things as possible, and doing a piss poor job at it, I might add. I mean, for all the idiocy that has gone in Warcraft timeline, with all the retcons and the writing quality that's gone into Warcraft, this is pretty bad, even by that scale. It's pretty fucking bad. And the way King Lane dies, leading an army against the Dark Portal to prevent the orcs from opening it fully, that's an interesting twist. I don't mind the retcons, it's just they have him with Garona doing that while Lane imprisoned Lofar because he had the problem with Medivh. It's like, what the hell? Really? That does happen. It's like, Lofar is imprisoned, then freed by Khadgar, and they then go deal with Medivh while Lane and Garona fight the vast Orcish horde. And Garona, instead of betraying Lane and the humans, as she did in the original timeline, Lane begs her to kill him so that she will be seen as a hero by the orcs. With one small exception. One small thing I take issue with that is she does that, but she backstabs the guy during the middle of battle. How the fuck would the orcs view that as honorable? And they make a point in the movie about orcs caring about honor, and that's actually something they talk about. And that's just the human side of the conflict. On top of that, it's like, oh, here's Lofar's kid who gets killed by Blackhand, the leader of the Orcish horde, nominally the leader of the orcs, just a puppet of Gul'Dan. Oh, here's Lofar's sister and Lane's wife. Let's introduce these two characters in a story that's already got too many characters that they're focusing on. Let's introduce two new ones that one of them was barely mentioned in the lore. Like, obviously Lane had a wife, Varian had a mother, and let's introduce a son to Lofar. Great, just great, Blizzard, just incredible stuff from the movie team. It's like, what's the point? It's like, what's the point? There's focus on things there shouldn't be. There's too much focus on the relationship between Garona and the human characters, and they do it badly, by the way, that relationship. They handle it very badly. The writing on that side of the movie is terrible. childish in parts, abysmally bad in other parts. Pathetic. Just a pathetic effort on that level. Then there's the orcs. So, in Warcraft 1, the guy who we were playing on the orcish side was Ogrim, who rose to power and then took power from Blackhand, who was the leader of the Blackrock clan. And Ogrim was his lieutenant, but he was part of a clan called the Thunderlords. In the movie, Ogrim is part of the Frostwolf clan. Right. And he's apparently Durotan's right-hand man. Okay, and Durotan plays a big role in the movie as an orcish character, which he didn't in actual events. Like, his clan was exiled, he then was assassinated, but most of the clan did survive after they came to Azeroth. In the movie, he fights on the side of the Horde, and he takes issue with Gul'Dan because he feels Gul'Dan will bring about the end of the world, destroy this world as he destroyed Draenor. Perfectly fine. And there's internal orcish politics. Small thing though, with the focus on Durotan, there's a less focus on Ogrim Doomhammer, which there should have been, because he became the war chief of the Horde after removing Blackhand in a coup because he had a problem with Gul'Dan and the Warlocks and their power plays, and he saw that Gul'Dan was going to lead the orcs to ruin, so he removed Blackhand. He destroyed Gul'Dan's inner circle, the Shadow Council, and then basically forced Gul'Dan to kneel to him. But he did spare Gul'Dan's life. Big mistake, but he did that. In here, he's Durotan's right-hand man. There's less of a focus on him than there should have been. And on top of that, he betrays Durotan, sells him out to Blackhand because he doesn't believe when Durotan tries to make a deal with the humans to get some peace, to deal with Gul'Dan. Ogrim doesn't believe that. He betrays Durotan, and then after that happens, Durotan gets imprisoned. The Frostwolves are still alive, but Ogrim goes before Gul'Dan. Gul'Dan wants to make him a green orc. Orcs are originally brown. Green means they're corrupted by demons. In this case, fel energy. They just say fel, green magic, whatever, that corrupts and uses life as its source. And Gul'Dan wants to give him the power of fel, and Ogrim comes up with a nice excuse. It's like, well, you know, the Frostwolves have been poisoned in their opinion of you by Durotan. Maybe I should bring them all here so you can do this in front of them, and they will see the power that I'll have then. And Gul'Dan agrees, and then butchers the whole Frostwolves because, like, oh, this entire clan is against me. Smart, Ogrim. Very fucking smart. Very bloody intelligent by Ogrim Doomhammer on that level. And of course, at that point, Doomhammer realizes the idiocy of betraying Durotan, frees Durotan, tries saving Durotan's wife, Draka, and Thrall, the green Jesus of the Warcraft universe, tries doing that. And, well, Draka dies, Durotan then gets killed by Gul'Dan after they duel one-on-one. But you can kind of see that there's some machinations going there that could lead, that, you know, if they make another movie, it could lead to Ogrim becoming, you know, the stage is set, as it were, for Ogrim to take charge of the Orcish Horde. There is that opportunity right there. But they did a terrible job with Ogrim Doomhammer. They didn't focus on the orcs as much as they should have. They instead focused on cheap romantic plot lines, or Lofar's son, or Lane's wife. You know, that's, God, of all the things you could focus on, this is Warcraft. Where's the Warcraft? There's only one major battle. Sure, there's a couple of smaller battles that are shown, like what, three smaller battles that are shown in the movie. But then only one major battle where the Kingdom of Stormwind takes all of its armies, all of its legions, and marches on the Dark Portal. Apparently the Alliance already exists, even though it was created in the aftermath of these events, but apparently already exists because of how Lofar shouts it at the end of the movie. Stormwind isn't sacked, so you only have half of the first war in this movie, and even then they rushed that first half of the movie. Look, of the events of Warcraft 1. If they make another movie, I'd say they should slow the fuck down. if there was one. Even the director said that they cut a lot of things that should have been in the movie that probably would have made it a better thing. I mean, it wouldn't have fixed all the shitty writing, but at least they could have given people a lot more context. As someone who knows Warcraft, knows all the tiny details, all the winks and nods they were going for, even then I found it a bloody clusterfuck. If someone who didn't know all those things watched this movie, they would have no idea what's going on beyond the bare minimum. But there's so many details that they should have focused on. They didn't. They went to too many they were trying to cover too much stuff over too long period of time, condensing that. You're talking of a war that took years. They condensed that in a single movie. They should have given it time to breathe and then focus on various things that they have in the movie but didn't expand on, that should have been expanded on. So less events, focus on the things you have. And that's what I think would have been a good thing. If they make another movie, just focus on the remaining half of the First War and the Fall of Stormwind, and maybe the aftermath of the Fall of Stormwind, but that's just about it. That's where I personally stand on that particular subject of Warcraft the movie. Overall, a disappointment, a mediocre film. I gotta say, the biggest disappointment for me was Doomhammer, and the reason because obviously he's a very important character in the lore, but beyond that, the guy behind Doomhammer, Robert Kosinski, is a WoW player, a hardcore World of Warcraft player, hardcore raider, former hardcore raider, I think, who during Wrath of the Lich King, if I remember that interview he did, and he was talking about the things he achieved. He was like in a top 150, top 100, top 200 guild in the world, raiding hardcore in the game. He got some really nice achievements, really nice boss kills, and he had a lot of things under his belt. And he said that World of Warcraft saved his life because he was in a bad time in his personal life, in real life as it were, and he retreated in World of Warcraft, and that, in his own words, saved his life. So here you have a player of the game playing an iconic character. He did a good job with it. Just the script, the writing for that character and for a lot of characters was abysmally bad. Just abysmal overall. On a writing level, horrible. On a CGI level, impressive. I'll give them that fact. The orcs, the locations, all that. Pretty good job there. But just a clusterfuck. That's what the Warcraft timeline is, a clusterfuck, and piss poor writing in it as well. At least that's what's happened recently. Anyway, that's where I stand. Costin here on Serious Gaming signing out. Don't forget to subscribe and like the video.